Live to fight another day was the mantra of last night's game, and they did that in a pretty big way with an 8-2 win yesterday for the Philadelphia Phillies. And now it's part two. It's the redo of Live to fight another day, where the Phillies, I guess, strike back with a vengeance, or maybe it's a pretty wrong way to go about it. But either way, the Phillies and the Dodgers, game four. It's the pregame show, the PHLY Phillies pregame show. Tyler Zulli, Rich Hoffman, Pat Egan, Ethan Hartley, Andrew Frazier. The whole PHLY crew is here as we get you set for what could be an awesome night for Philadelphia sports. And it kicks off at 6:08 tonight with the Phillies and the Dodgers in game four. Phillies trail 2-1 in the series, but get a big statement win last night with the offense coming alive, doing an excellent job against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And tonight, the ace is back on the mound. Cristopher Sanchez gets the ball for the second time in the series as he'll take on Tyler Glasnow in what is hopefully the final game at Dodger Stadium this season. And guys, I asked you this after game or heading into game three. I'm going to ask you this now. The same exact question in the same exact way. How you feeling heading into tonight's game?
Well, for one, Tyler, a little tired, I would say. I felt like we were just doing this like a couple hours ago, talking about that great game three win. And there is something about sports in October where you're just exhausted the next day after a playoff baseball game, but in the best way possible. And so how am I feeling about this game? I mean, I said it last night. I thought on paper, game three was the hardest game for the Phillies to get. I mean, I like the pitching matchup a lot more heading into this one. Is that how it's going to play out? We don't know. I mean, it's playoff baseball, but Phillies have Cristopher Sanchez on the mound against Tyler Glasnow with a chance to bring the series back to Philadelphia. Who knows? But I'll take my chances with that.
I feel good, man. I never went to sleep last night. I just slammed Surge Soda and watched a bunch of episodes of Burn Notice. So I'm like hairs on fire right now. Couldn't sleep after that win. But no, in all seriousness, like I feel a lot better now than I did obviously before game three. But it's more so because of the fact of how they did it. They actually had production from the top of their order, which is something that we were begging them to do. Tyler, it was something that you said before last night's game. It was like, I think you expected an 8-2 Dodgers victory.
I did.
And I think, no, and we can all laugh at him now on point because he doesn't know baseball, and that's fine. But I think if all of us were to say the game is going to end 8-2, we all would have said, oh, it's the Dodgers. The fact that the Phillies finally got production from their top guys and multiple hits, multiple runs. It wasn't just like a one-off. It was 2 home runs from Kyle Schwarber. It was, 2 hits from Trey Turner. The fact that they got all of that, you hope that they break out of that slump that they were in. It makes me feel a lot better about tonight's matchup.
Yeah, after the first 2 nights, the top 3 were 3 for 21. Last night, they were 7 for 13 with 3 extra base hits, a handful of RBI, and a couple of runs scored. It was a much more collective effort from this team. And we talked a lot about the plan, right? The Rob Thompson plan, the Aaron Nola 2 innings, the Ranger Suarez 5 innings, and they end up, piecemealing this thing together for a victory on the strength of Ranger Suarez and the offense coming alive. And tonight, 2 guys that have already pitched in this series. Cristopher Sanchez started game 1 for the Phillies. Tyler Glasnow came on in relief for the Dodgers. Here's the pitching matchup, and here's what they did in game 1 against the opposition. Cristopher Sanchez pitched into the 6th. He went 5 2/3. He gave up the 2 earned runs. He did strike out 8, 4 hits and 94 pitches. Glasnow came in relief of Shohei Ohtani. He went an inning and 2/3. He gave up 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, didn't give up the run, but he did throw 34 pitches to get 5 outs, guys. And I think, as we talked about Yoshinobu Yamamoto yesterday, and we kind of alluded to in yesterday's postgame show, the plan against Yamamoto was to see him out and allow him to kind of get himself into high pitch counts by forcing him to throw a lot of pitches per plate appearance, by forcing him to come back into the zone and not be able to get after you with the splitter and with the slider and with the curveball. And I think tonight, probably a lot more of the same against Tyler Glasnow. That plan should be in place again tonight. It's a guy who we talked about last night. His baseball savant page is very, very heavily in the red, with the exception of his walk rate, 11.7%. His chase rate, 22.1%, is in the first percentile of Major League Baseball. That's not a good thing. It's very blue in that particular regard. You have to make him get after you, and do not chase the early stuff. Allow him to get himself into his own trouble. And he did it against Yamamoto last night. You got to do it again tonight against Glasnow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is that Glasnow is a guy who sometimes his stuff is almost too good to where he can't locate it because it's moving too much, particularly that breaking stuff. And yeah, you got to wait him out. I would think like if he's going to throw that slider, that curveball earlier in the count, like I might just take those pitches and see where it leads. Hopefully run up his pitch count. But yeah, I think the same exact game plan they had against Yamamoto last night. This is a guy that seems like he would be more susceptible to getting beat by that game plan. Hopefully that's how it works. I do have a question for you guys though, when it comes to the Phillies lineup. Did you guys give any thought to maybe switching JT Realmuto and Brandon Marsh? Because of what happened last night in the middle innings where Alec Boehm gets intentionally walked a couple of times.
Sure.
And if Bryce Harper is getting himself out against lefties, which unfortunately he has done a little bit in this series, I don't know. Again, this Bader injury has forced the Phillies to scramble in a lot of different ways. I understand why Brandon Marsh is in the lineup. I am a little bit worried about that. I would say, though, that, somebody like Vesia, somebody like Banda can get into that middle pocket of the Phillies order and basically have a free out by intentionally walking.
Yeah, I think you're playing your odds, right? I think you're playing your chances. And yes, you are probably going to run into a lefty-lefty matchup at some point. And if it's not in the 8th or 9th inning, you're probably not going to use Harrison Bader because he can't run. Therefore, he probably can't field. They said they'll reevaluate for Saturday. He may be a go for Saturday's lineup, but he's not in the lineup tonight. So I think what Rob Thompson is inevitably trying to do here is go lefty righty or in this case, righty at the top, but split up the lefties and the righties as best as he possibly can, which is why you see him hitting 5th tonight, right? Because of the
same lineup as last.
Yeah, because of the fact that Boehm, the righty, hits 4th. You go with JT behind him, the righty hitting 6th, the lefty hitting 7th. In Kepler, you go to the righty and Castellanos to hit 8th, and then Stott regroups it in the 9th spot, hitting lefty as well. They went lefty righty as much as they possibly can. That, I think, is to avoid those particular pockets where you do have 2 lefties in Harper and Schwarber hitting back, or Schwarber and Harper hitting back to back, and you have 3 out of 4. Yes, it would be an unfortunate scenario if the Dodgers can find themselves in a situation where they have a free base available. They will walk Boehm, they'll go after Marsh, and you don't have the righty that you can turn to in that particular spot. But I think Rob Thompson is playing his odds in this spot to say it's a righty starter, it's a righty closer,
and it's probably Sheehan.
And it's probably Sheehan in between, a righty himself. So I think he's probably trying to play those odds and hope that the 1 inning of Vesia or the 1 inning of Banda doesn't come back to bite you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of gross, if I'm being honest with you. Like Alec Boehm's your cleanup hitter and Brandon Marsh is your number 5 hitter. I would have looked to probably switch it up a bit, but to Tyler's point, they're clearly playing the lefty-righty thing. I've never personally been a big fan of the lefty righter, just staying true to that. I want my good players up top. I want my worst players down low. And when you have Alec Boehm, who isn't exactly, it doesn't exactly have a lot of power to him. And then you've got Brandon Marsh, who struggles against lefties. He's played a lot better, and he played a lot better in the second half. I've always been very critical of him. But still, to your point, last night, they clearly were deciding to go after Brandon Marsh instead of going after Alec Boehm. You don't really see that a lot of times in baseball with your 5 hitter, right?
No. And another element of this too, I think Boehm in the cleanup spot, they were sort of just riding the hot hand because at the end of September, when he came back from that injury, he was swinging a very good bat.
Sure.
I will say a guy who was not swinging a good bat during that period in this series, JT Realmuto he's had a really nice series so far. So
yeah, we were talking about it in May and in June of like, okay, what's the future plan for the Phillies at the catcher position? Because it may not include JT Realmuto. And if it does, it may be on a short-term basis, 1 or 2 year deal, higher AAV to keep him. I think he will have suitors elsewhere, but you have to start thinking about what's the plan. When JT started to hit was kind of right in the same timeline of when the Phillies went out and traded their big catching prospect, Eduardo Tait, to go get Joan Duran. And it was like, well, JT's starting to play a little bit better. We know the defense and the arm is still there. And if the offense is now starting to buoy itself a little bit, and it had in the second half of the season, now you can sit here and go, okay, well, maybe you can get another 2 or 3 years out of him. Maybe you can figure out in the interim until you figure out who the catcher of the future is going to be, that JT is that guy. And I think that his second half was much better than his first half. And we've talked about it plenty. When JT is going, he's going to the opposite field. When he hits line drives over the second baseman's head into the right center field gap, that's the guy that I know is seeing pitches, letting pitches get deep in on him, and he has the ability to go the other way with them. He's a traditional old school approach where he gets 2 strikes, he chokes up. He gets 2 strikes, the leg kick is significantly less.
Gets that foot down
right,
fast.
the foot gets planted a lot quicker. It's the type of guy that, you know, I think you trust with 2 strikes and in big situations when he's going, because you know that right side of the field is always in play for JT Realmuto.
Love how he's swinging it right now.
Yeah, and let's be real. I mean, he hasn't been this in the past couple of Octobers.
No.
Sure.
The one critical thing I've been with Rob Thompson throughout his tenure as a Phillies manager is the fact that I feel like he runs JT into the ground by constantly having him play nothing but catcher. And part of that is because the pitchers are so comfortable with JT Realmuto. But he doesn't really spell him. He doesn't put him at first base. He doesn't put him at DH. It's just nothing but catcher. And I always thought, okay, it has an effect in October. You know, all that work on your knees, it adds up. This October is different though, for whatever reason. I don't know if like he took a vitamin, maybe like a multivitamin or like a whatever. But yeah, he looks way different because you would hit late September, October, and he was a 220 hitter primarily. And now it's like you look at, you know, this entire series, you're right. He's probably been the most consistent batter that they've had in their entire lineup.
Might be eating those stir fries that he's got the sponsorship deal on.
And Honey Grow?
Yes. Well, don't give him the free advertising, man.
Come on, man.
It's delicious. I love Honey Grow.
No, it's very good. I mean, now that you said it, it's very good. One other thing with JT that just as we're complimenting him as well, starting pitching has been awesome in this series. And like Pat said, like these pitchers are super comfortable with him. And these pitchers, all of them throw a bunch of pitches. It takes JT Realmuto to have a feel for what pitch to throw in the right circumstance. And he's been pressing the right button. Like,
and I will say, I think somebody brought it up in the chat last night. I do think for the first time, maybe ever in this postseason set with JT Realmuto, I think there was some outside influence from the dugout last night on pitch sequencing. I think you could see it in their eyes. Like Ranger Suarez looked over a boatload of times. Aaron Nola did in the first couple innings. I wonder if JT and Marchand and the pitching staff and Caleb Cotham got together and said, we're going to sequence this thing together because of the oddity of Aaron Nola maybe pitching just 2 innings and Ranger Suarez coming out of the pen for the first time this season. I do think that there was some kind of like collective decision to do this as a group. And I think it meant something, because my one complaint about JT Realmuto at times has been his pitch calling, has been his sequencing. We know he's got the pop time. We know he's a good defensive. He blocks balls very well. Even as he gets a little bit older, his ability to play behind the plate defensively is still there. My one concern has always been his pitch sequencing, especially when it comes to falling in love with a specific pitch or specific spot. Ranger Suarez is pitch sequencing proof almost, because he throws 5 or 6 different pitches. Let's see tonight, again with Cristopher Sanchez, as we saw in game 1, how much does he mix the slider in? I think the slider is key against to keep the righties off balance, or to keep the lefties off balance, excuse me. Then you know the changeup's coming against the righties. Absolutely.
And I mean, you know, do they change it up from game 1 too, where Sanchez was in control for a lot of the game? I didn't think he had his A+ stuff in that game, but he was very in control for most of that game 1. Yeah, and I mean, when Cristopher Sanchez is good, his good is better than most people. So I guess, like, what do you guys think the plan is going to be? Do you think it's Sanchez for X amount of hitters, or are they just going to let him go until?
Yeah, I think this is probably a traditional start. I don't think there's probably going to be there's obviously a back against the wall feel, because you know, it still is an elimination game, but this feels like a traditional start to me. This feels like he's going to get 85, 90, 95, maybe 100 pitches, and you see where he's going from there. My hope is to get 18 outs from him. If you can get 6 from him, I think he's done his job. If you get more than that, you're feeling really, really good. If you get less than that, you're going to have to piecemeal this thing together. But I think he got 17 outs in the game 1. If you can get him to 18 outs, I think that's a big, big win.
Yeah, I thought last night it was kind of a panic situation with the Phils. Rightfully so. They're down 0-2 in the series, but you have Nola go for 2 innings, and you know, you bring in Ranger Suarez, and luckily Ranger Suarez ended up looking the way he did. So you didn't have, you know, the guys warming in the pen constantly. But I do wonder, God forbid Cristopher Sanchez falls behind in some of these hitters and he gets himself in a little bit of trouble, how quickly Rob Thompson will start getting guys warmed up, because their backs are quite literally against the wall. I mean, you know, it's win or go home. Well, I mean, you're going home no matter what, but you guys know what I'm saying. So
that's how flights work.
That is how flights work. Yes, you can't stay in LA. Well, I guess you could.
It could.
This is over. Whatever, not the point. Yeah, so I do wonder how quickly the hook would be if he were to get in trouble, because we saw in game one he was cruising, and then he had a little bit of unfortunate luck that got runners in third and second, and that's when Rob Thompson went over to David Robertson, pulled him in, and that kind of changed the complete landscape of the game a little bit.
The sixth and seventh inning, those are the ones I'm worried about. And last night, getting Nola to essentially pitch those innings right away was huge. How will they do that tonight? I mean, I think as Rob Thompson showed before Clayton Kershaw, who's what, he's 250 years old now.
237, but you can round up. It's fine.
Before he gave up 1 million runs, they were going to go to Duran for 6 outs last night.
Yeah.
So I got to assume that's on the table again, just after a little bit of a warm-up
Yeah,
session.
I mean, I would have to think everybody but Ranger Suarez and Aaron Nola are available in some capacity. Now, obviously, if there's a game 5, Jesus Luzardo is going to get the start. I think he's a break glass in case of emergency, but like if you need a power lefty out, I don't rule it out in an elimination game. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't rule it out. I think everybody except Ranger Suarez and Aaron Nola are available tonight.
But I think if Sanchez just even has, a B start, you're probably looking at some combination of him, Orion or Strom, maybe both of them, and then Duran at some point.
I mean, this is look, the pitching has not been the issue this entire series. Like I mean, the David Robertson, Matt Strom thing, okay, but the starting pitching hasn't been the issue. It's the bats need to do what they did last night. Put together really good at bats, make Tyler Glasnow work, and at that point, I'll feel good. And I feel like we'll probably know within the first 2 innings how their approach is, because the first 2 batters last night, 4 pitches, 2 outs, it didn't look good. Harper puts that at bat together, and it just seemed to change everything.
By the way, crazy stat I read today, I think this was in The Athletic. Kyle Schwarber became the first lefty hitter to clear the pavilions since Willie Stargell in 1973.
That guy's good.
He had some legit pop.
He must have hit tanks. Seriously.
He's got the star out of the bed.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the first thing I think of when I hear that name.
Legit pop there. All right, guys, let's pause. On the other side, we're going to get our Bet365 pregame picks, and we'll give you our predictions, and we'll get you out of here. First pitch is just 10 minutes away from Dodger Stadium. It's the PHLY Phillies pregame show brought to you by our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union and Bet365, and we'll be right back after this. All right, listen, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, but tonight the moment is intensified because it is a win or go home postseason game. And if you join Bet365, you'll join 90 million users who live in-game bet all of the time. You can continually get different odds and lines and spreads and totals. Numbers change throughout the game. Numbers change throughout individual at-bats and in innings, and you can get all the updated lines with our friends over at Bet365. And you get early payout action across the NBA and the NHL tonight. NHL here, hometown team underway as well to start their 2025 season. And of course, if you are a new user to Bet365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and you'll get $200 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. You can use that bonus bet money on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. You find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And guys, if your home needs a little TLC or you're dreaming of that next big vacation, maybe even to see one of our Philly teams play away, maybe you're thinking about a little trip to Milwaukee next week, listen up. TrueMark Financial's HELOC Select just got even better. Rates just dropped, making it more affordable to put your home's equity to work. Do you need a new kitchen, some big repairs to make, maybe just to knock out some debt? Well, with HELOC Select, you can access all of your cash all at once, or just when you need it. Total flexibility, like a good game plan, like Rob Thompson's game plan last night. So
The plan.
Make it happen today and visit one of TrueMark's 24 branches or head to truemark.com/PHLY and get in the game today. Federally insured by NCUA, an equal opportunity lender.
All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies pregame show. That's Pat Egan on the corner there, Rich Hoffman in between us. I'm Tyler Zulli, Ethan Hartley producing today's show. And it's time for our Bet365 pregame picks. Here's our Bet365 pregame picks. You sign up again, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $300 in bonus bets, whether your bets win or lose. All right, I'm going to go with the over half a base for Max Kepler tonight, the lefty facing the righty. Kepler actually has some decent numbers against Tyler Glasnow in his career. I believe he is the only Philly in the lineup to have homered off of Tyler Glasnow in his career when he was with the Rays, and Kepler, of course, was with the Twins. Over half a base is just basically saying, give me a single tonight. I'm asking for one hit. Unfortunately, walks don't count. I wish they would, but walks don't count in this regard. -115. I'm going to take Kepler over half a base.
Yeah, I mean, I've liked Kepler. I've liked his at bats in this series. He does have to do it with the bat at some point. So my pick, and Pat looks like he's thinking the same as me. I just think it's a Bryce night. Like I just think for the Phillies to get this back home, Schwarber went crazy last night. I would like to see some more Schwarbombs. Definitely nice to see Trey using his legs, getting on base, hitting the ball up the middle. But I think Bryce is the guy that's going to have to step up tonight. He's got a righty on the mound. I think he's got 2 bases in him at +125.
Yeah, pretty much same thing Rich said. I think the moment never seems too bright for Bryce, and he usually steps up in these situations. So I'm kind of banking on that. The fact that he had a really good game last night, I think it's going to carry over to tonight. So I have him over the 1.5 RBIs, hits, runs combo. I think he'll be able to somehow get on base, steal, get home, get a hit, whatever.
All right, guys, time for predictions. You guys were correct. No, I'm sorry. Pat was correct.
Pat was correct
in yesterday's predictions.
I was grasping at straws.
It was tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but you maybe helped propel them and whatever it might be.
I think they were watching.
Between you picking the Phillies and Ethan not being here.
Yeah, I saw Trey with the phone watching us before,
absolutely.
Before his first at bat. He wasn't looking at the picture.
So, guys, last night I said to you, I think if there's a big winner, it's the Dodgers. And if it's a close winner, it's the Phillies. And I ended up being very, very wrong because the Phillies were the big winner. I'm inverting that tonight. I think if there's a big winner, I think the Phillies get to Glasnow early. I think they maybe put up a 2 or 3 spot in the first couple of innings, and they rattle Glasnow and they get into the actual Dodgers bullpen. If it's a close game, I think that may lean Dodgers because of the ability to hit in the bottom of the 9th, the ability to have the last at bats, and it's a group that has had the propensity for big moments in the past. With that being said, I've talked myself into a Game 5 in Philadelphia, and I'm going to take the Phils tonight to win this one 6-3.
I'm with you. Look, I said last night, did not feel good about that game. Just the matchup on paper, Aaron Nola against Yamamoto. The Phillies' top 3 getting going to that degree gives me a lot of confidence. I don't think the Dodgers are going to just fold. Like, I don't think
they're not going to shy from the moment.
I don't think
it'd be cooler if they did.
It would veteran-laden team.
It would be cool.
Unfortunately.
But I do think the Phillies are now locked in. They've had these 3 games. Their rhythm is back. You got Sanchez on the mound. Like Tyler, I think it's like...
I talked myself into this in like the last 2 hours, by the way.
I think it's a little bit closer, but the Phils get to Glasnow enough, and Sanchez shoves, and it's probably like, maybe the bullpen gives up a couple runs, but it's like a 5-3 Phillies win.
Okay.
I'm with you guys. I feel a lot better after watching last night's performance with the top 3 breaking out like we talked about earlier. I did have a 6-3 Phillies win, but somebody stole it.
Say it with your chest.
No, I'm not doing that commercial.
With your mouth.
No, I'm not doing that commercial at all. I'll do 6-4, but I do think that it gets a little dicey. 8th, 9th inning, whatever it is. You might have a Duran 4-out save.
B-Dog says 7. I don't know about 7.
I would. That's fine.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'd take it.
Save being the key word there.
Whatever gets the job done. But I think at one point we're feeling all right, and then we're sitting on the edge of our seats. But ultimately, I think the Phillies win.
That's playoff baseball for you, right? It's kind of how it goes.
Game 1, it was fun until it wasn't.
The one worry for me is just they have pitched Ohtani so well so far in this series. I don't know. I think at some point he's probably going to be heard from.
All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for the PHLY Phillies pregame show. A big thank you to Ethan Hartley for producing today's show.
He's got to go home.
He might have to go home because they won yesterday and he wasn't here. Phillies and Dodgers, Game 4 is coming up in just a couple of moments. We'll be back with the post-game show no matter if the Phils win and extend it to a Game 5 or if the season ends today. We will be back for an hour-long post-game show. And by the way, tune on in to the ultimate sports night in PHLY here and for Philadelphia. It is a watch-along here for us with the PHLY Phillies crew, the PHLY Eagles crew, the PHLY Flyers. They're at home, but they're doing the show pre and post as well. It is a 3-game night for us here at PHLY, and you got to get in to join us with the watch-along. It's going to be a little more informal, a little more fun. Pat's probably going to say some F-bombs along the way.
I don't care.
And we might get FCC regulated, but tune on into that in just a little bit, and we'll be back for the post-game show at the conclusion of this one. So for the guys here, for everybody in our chat saying thank you so much, we'll be back with the post-game show. Phillies-Dodgers, Game 4, coming up next.
Let's go Phils.